Hi everyone, it's John Mitchell, and in today's video, we're going to delve into the world of waste minimization and look at specific strategies that businesses can use to minimize their waste. So, waste minimization is the process of reducing the amount of unused or discarded resources within the business. Now, remember, every resource that's utilized by a business costs that business money, and the less waste means higher operational efficiency, which can lead to improved costs and an improved environmental impact as well. Now, there's lots of different strategies that businesses can implement to minimize their waste. For example, and many of these strategies we've actually been through in previous videos. So, implementing quality strategies to minimize the amount of errors that's occurring, having training employees so that they're performing at a higher level and therefore producing less waste. It could be changing processes and implementing a process such as lean management, and we'll get to that in a future video, or implementing any of the technologies that we've been through, which we know are more consistent and more accurate than humans are. And the three R's, which we're going to cover today. So, reduce, reuse, and recycle. These are three strategies that are listed in our study design on how businesses can minimize waste. So the first strategy is to reduce, and this is where the business is looking to limit the amount of waste that they are producing in the first place. So it's about minimizing waste and the amount of resources that are used by the business through a whole range of different measures, such as changing processes to require fewer materials, removing any unnecessary packaging, or implementing strategies such as a just-in-time process, which is going to minimize the amount of waste that's produced, or even using higher quality materials, or leveraging technology to be more precise and consistent. So the whole aim here is to look to minimize or reduce the amount of resources and waste that is produced by the business. The second strategy is to reuse. So after the business has reduced the materials and resources used and the waste that they've produced, they can then look to explore reusing their materials. So reuse is all about focusing on finding new applications for items that would otherwise become waste. For example, a business could repair broken equipment instead of discarding it and simply replacing it. They could repurpose items such as plastic containers that could be used in other areas of the business. They could make use of multi-use items instead of having single-use items that are used once and then discarded, and the multi-use items can be used over and over again. Or they could use waste from one product as the raw materials from another product, and that's often occurring in restaurants when they use offcuts to create stock and those types of things. Or they could even donate equipment for others to use. And the third and final strategy is to recycle. So, this process involves converting waste materials into new products. So, recycling should be the last resort, ideally after the business has tried to reduce and reuse in the first place. Although recycling can conserve resources and reduce the need for landfill space, it also requires a significant amount of energy and other resources to collect, sort, and process the waste. And so, therefore, the business should be going through the other two strategies first before recycling. Now, as with all our strategies that we've looked at in previous videos, we need to look at how they improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the operations. So, by focusing on reducing and reusing, the business can streamline their processes, which leads to more efficient operations. And also, they're using fewer resources to produce their products. So, that using fewer resources leads to greater efficiency. And in terms of effectiveness, well, lowering the long term costs of the business because they're using fewer resources, and it can also reduce the impact on the environment, which can enhance the business's reputation. But like all things, these strategies do come with limitations. There is a high initial setup cost. So while the long-term costs can be reduced, though, there can be significant high initial setup costs, and the complexity of implementing those changes throughout the business can also be challenging. And there's also an increase in energy consumption required for recycling, which can pose an impact on the environment. So let's take a look at a real world example. We've got CSR Limited here, who's using the three R's. So CSR is a leading building products company throughout Australia and New Zealand and provides building products for residential and commercial construction. In terms of reduce, they are working to reduce the amount of packaging that they use in their products, as well as working with their suppliers to reduce the amount of packaging their suppliers have. Reuse, what they do is work with their customers to go around and retrieve timber pallets from building sites and then reuse them in the future. And that's resulted in a saving of approximately 600 tonnes of timber per month from entering landfills since they've implemented that strategy. And recycle, they recycle lots, but here's just a couple of examples. They've got 80% of their recycled glass for their glass wool insulation, as well as recycling 550 tonnes of aluminium each year. So that's an example of how CSR is using these three R's. So, just to recap, businesses look to minimize their waste using a whole range of strategies, and three strategies that are listed in our study design in this area are to reduce, which is aiming to limit the amount of waste produced in the first place, then reusing, looking to find new uses for items that would otherwise become waste, and finally, recycling after the first two have been completed. And if there's still waste, then they can convert waste materials into new products, which is recycling. So that brings us to the end of this video. Can't wait to see you in the next video, where we're going to continue looking at waste and efficiency, where we'll look at lean management. But until then, just remember that for questions, activities, and helping your VCE journey, then come on over to teachingbubble.com.